Hi everybody, so today we're going to be looking at what if Beth had debuted instead of Blaineley. We all know what would have happened, Beth should have debuted, but Blaineley debuted because Jeff was pretty pissed. So, without further ado, let's get it going. Also, side note, this thing I'm doing where I do what ifs is inspired by the channel You, who does drag race related content, and they've done a lot of what ifs over there. So please check the description for their YouTube link. They do a lot of great videos that are content. It's not even just what ifs, but other stuff too. And I think some of you guys could really enjoy it, so please check the description for that link. Starting off, we have the top 8 episode where they were at Niagara Falls, and Beth is just here instead of Blaineley. As for the pairings, I think all the pairings would have just been the same. It was a lottery type situation, so Beth being there instead of Blaineley wouldn't have really changed anything. As for the challenge, I think Duncan and Courtney still would have won that challenge because there isn't really anything that Beth being there would have changed other than maybe like Heather and Blaineley and Owen and all that whole fucking jazz wouldn't have fallen into the water. But so yeah, I think Duncan and Courtney still would have won the challenge. As for the voting, Alejandro, Cody, and Beth still would have been safe. Blaineley was originally safe because she didn't really get any votes. Didn't really do anything. I think in this episode, Beth is pretty likable, so I don't think she would have had any issues here. As for the voting, I think Owen still would have gotten voted off. Originally, Sierra and Heather were supposed to get 2 votes, and I still think they would have gotten 2 votes, and Owen still would have gotten his 5 to go home. Moving on, we have the top 7 at the Great Wall of China, where they had to do the race to get items to do another race to the finish line, and then whoever finished had to do the main challenge for immunity. Heather and Cody were going to do the rickshaw, but Blaineley slapped Heather, so she kind of took it. So I think without Blaineley being here, Heather would have pulled Cody in a rickshaw. Duncan still would have gotten the bike. Alejandra still would have gotten the skateboard. Courtney still would have gotten her tricycle. Beth would have probably gotten the donkey because Sierra would have taken the pogo stick. And as for who finishes the challenge, I think that it still would have been the same result, where Courtney is the only person who does not finish the challenge. As for the main challenge, I think that the knockout order still would have been the same. Cody, Heather, Duncan, and then as for when the last 3 were left, Courtney would have still been called out for cheating by Heather, so Alejandra would have probably gotten out at that point, but I think Beth still would have been able to stomach the food along with Sierra. And as for Beth and Sierra being the last 2, I think that Sierra would have probably finished her dish a lot faster because of Cody. And because of that, she would have obviously won the challenge, and the voting would have been pretty obvious. The only reason Blaineley got votes was because of the fact that she was caught cheating. And since Blaineley isn't here and there was no cheating, I think everybody would have pretty much voted for Courtney, with Courtney voting for Heather. Moving into the top 6, we have the Serengeti, where everybody had to go find Ezekiel. I think that Alejandro and Duncan would have still been quote-unquote working together. Sierra, Beth, and Cody would have been together, but then Cody gets kidnapped. So I think that all the girls would have been together just to go find Cody and all that jazz. And I think that Alejandro still would have found Ezekiel and caught him and still won the challenge. As for the voting, I think that Cody and Beth would have been safe, and it would have been a 3-way tie between Duncan, Heather, and Sierra. I think that for sure Heather would have been fine for the challenge. I think that whatever they would have had to done, Heather would have probably come up on top or even second in it, but I don't think Heather would have been eliminated in this 3-way tie. And as for between Sierra and Duncan, some of y'all gonna get mad at me, but I really think Sierra would have beat Duncan in that situation. I really, really, really believe that she would have been able to pull it out better than Duncan, just because I know Duncan, just because he is him, he's not that amazing at challenges. He hasn't really won that many in the first place. When you really look at it, he's more of a strategic person. He only really has won team challenges. So I think that Duncan still would have lost up against Sierra and Heather. Moving on to the top 5 episode, we have the whole eagle situation. This is pretty obvious, honestly. There's no debate for it. Heather would have won the challenge. Alejandro, Cody, and Sierra couldn't even finish. I mean, Cody had his chance to redo it, but Heather still won the challenge. I don't even think Beth could have done any better than the other 3, or even Heather, so I think Heather still would have won the challenge. And since we didn't have a double elimination at the Great Wall of China, we would be seeing an elimination here, since this was the last non-elimination episode that was in the season before the finale. And originally, Sierra would have gone home. It was a 3-1 vote, and I think that Beth would have just been another vote for Sierra. Alejandro still would have gotten that one vote. While I think that Heather and Beth would have probably missed out on a really big opportunity to get rid of Alejandro. Cody was pretty sick of Sierra's shit, and Heather and Beth were probably already working with Sierra and Cody at that point, but Sierra was pretty insane, and they already know that they have the numbers, so without even having Alejandro there, they would have been fine. Moving on to the top 4, we're back to Drumheller. I can't pronounce it, I'm very sorry. But we are back to that point. Sierra originally won this challenge because of the oil barrels, and I think that with Sierra being gone, I think that Beth would have been kind of the Sierra for Cody at that point. She would have been helping him a bit, and Heather would have probably been with them too, since Alejandro couldn't have made anything up to screw anybody else over. Moving on, we have Cody winning the challenge, obviously. Obviously he was going to win the challenge. Without Alejandro messing with anything, Cody would have probably finished pretty quickly, especially since he would have had Beth. Heather would have still been stuck in a ditch, and would have lied to Alejandro to try to help him, but I think with Cody and Beth doing their own thing together, Cody still would have won the challenge. As for the voting, I think since Cody was safe, Alejandro would have probably voted for Beth, but Heather would have been safe and Alejandro still would have gone home. Without Sierra being here, there wouldn't have been the whole plane explosion and Alejandro wouldn't have been safe. Therefore, I think it would have been a 3-1 vote, with Beth getting 1 vote from Alejandro and the other 3 would have voted out Alejandro. As for the top 3, this was something that was decided by the public. I found this out a bit ago, that Cody had gotten, originally it was Heather, Cody, and Alejandro for voting, and Cody had gotten the least amount of votes, so they gave Cody 3rd place. Now, if we're going off the fact, which I'm just going to say right now we are, that the public would have been voting for who would have gotten 3rd place, I really think Heather still would have gotten the most votes, Cody would have gotten safe, and Beth would have been eliminated as 3rd boot at Hawaii. I really don't think that there would have been a single chance that Beth could have gotten more votes than Cody. Beth was already in a finale. Cody was probably more likable than Beth during the season. Even currently, I think that Cody's a more popular character than Beth, so I still think that Beth would have been eliminated here. As for Heather and Cody, they would have been the final 2, and I think that the legit ending would have been Heather, obviously. Heather's the queen of the fucking show. Cody would have just been an alternate ending, and I still think it would have been a fun season, though. Even with Beth being there instead of Blaineley, I think that a lot of different things could have happened, and it still would have been really fun to watch. And that's it. That's the whole thing. I know I probably was a little quick with this, but I just kind of was doing a video idea and I just popped in my mind and I was like, yeah, we should talk about it, because I mean, it would have been a really interesting situation to see what would have happened with Beth, considering she should have returned and she didn't. So I hope everybody really enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, comment what your thoughts are on this what if, because I thought it was a pretty interesting idea. It's a valid what if, but yeah, also, like I said at the beginning of the video, this whole thing is inspired by the YouTube channel so please check them out in the description below, and I hope everybody has a lovely day, and goodbye!